SuperTalk Mississippi app. Of course, you can always find us, too, on your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. And you can watch Good Things. We are on your computer or your mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. You'll see I'm not alone in the studio today. You know, that makes me happy. We've got with us Chris Barnett. He is the Pearl Boys Track and Field head coach. He has been named Coach of the Year by the United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association. Oh my gosh, that's a long name there, Chris. But not once, but I think twice. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And then, if I am correct, Pearl High School's boys cross country holds the most state championships in cross country in the entire state, correct?
That's correct.
And there may be a better way of saying that, but y'all good. How about that? So congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I love this story because obviously you are the head coach there at Pearl for the boys. Are you also for the girls? Or is
I am not for the girls.
Okay. So for the boys. And this all started kind of like in your bloodline because you first was your dad who coached there. So take us back. Take us back to when you even got introduced to like the sport of cross country and like how your dad ended up at Pearl as well.
Okay. My dad, he actually went to Mississippi College, and at Mississippi College he actually met a man by the name of Joe Walker, who ended up was the head coach there at Mississippi College. And then Joe Walker himself ended up moving to the University of Florida, was the head coach there, coached multiple Olympians, and then coached also at Ole Miss. Well, back at Mississippi College, my dad actually was working as a trainer on the football team and as the trainer for the track team, and ended up getting to know Joe Walker and just seeing the type of man he is and the type of mentor that he was, and just loved to be able to be a part of everything that he was doing. That's where he got a lot of his ideas and thoughts about how to build a team and how to be successful with everything that he did in his particular career. And then from the Mississippi College aspect of it, he ended up getting a job and graduating and going to Pearl. Once he actually got to Pearl, he actually wanted to be a football coach, to be honest with you, and coached football there at Pearl his first year and was the track coach there at the junior high and also for the 9th grade team. So he actually wasn't the head coach the actual first year. After his first year of being the coach there, he ended up moving the very next year. They actually were looking for a head cross-country coach, and he ended up taking over the cross-country. That season, actually, in 1978, was the first season of the MHSAA to where they recognized the championships for when this actually started. And this year actually was the 46th year of that. So, but the very first year was 1978. My dad, his first cross-country meet, because he worked with track and football, he was never there at Mississippi College for any of the cross-country or anything like that. But so his first cross-country meet that he ever saw was actually one that he actually coached in. So that was pretty
Welcome
pretty
to
special.
high school sports sometimes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They throw you in there.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, he ended up that particular year. They actually won the state championship his first year as a coach, and they had cross country in the past at Pearl, but it wasn't recognized by the Mississippi High School Activity Association as a sanctioned sport. And a lot of sports go through that before they actually become sports. Even in today's world, a lot of them they start out as something and then it ends up moving into a sanctioned sport. But before then, they actually they had a coach there that had some pretty good athletes and did well. And, of course, he brought in a lot of his new ideas and things of that sort to the program there in 1978 that he had learned from Joe Walker there at Mississippi College while he was there. And then he ended up that same season, that was his first year as the head track coach as well. And he was obviously successful. They didn't win the state championship that year in track, but he ended up going on from that point to win a total, my dad, whenever he actually retired, 43 state championships. That was all the way up until his last year of 2012, which he actually was my boss for 1 year, as not the track coach, and then I was the track coach, and he was just the athletic director at that time.
And the complex there at Pearl, Woody Barnett Track and Field Complex, is named after your dad and his legacy and all he did there. So watching your dad, obviously, I'm assuming he never ran in track and field either, or cross country.
He did not. And
yeah. And then to be able to translate, because that goes to show that so much of a coach isn't just necessarily technicality of the sport, which I feel like anyone can learn, but it's leadership and being able to coach. There's so many other skills that come into having that kind of legacy with wins. What made you want to do it? Or like step into those shoes?
Well, I would say from a very young age. So just to kind of give you an idea, I was born in 1982, and obviously he was a couple of years into the program. And when I was younger, my dad would actually have track camps during the summer, and because I had been around it, and of course, just like with my son now, anytime we have a meet, it's a real good place to be able to come up there and run around on the infield while we're having the events, once the field events are over with, to be able to kind of run around and do see and be a part of watching the sport itself. But he would have track camps, so when he had the track camps during the summertime, I actually, because I had just been around it, and just like with anything, I think that any of us would say in life, that once you're around it enough or see it enough, you're actually able to start, teaching others. So even as a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, I was able to go to those camps, be able to help coach and show and kind of present to other kids that, eventually become a big part of our program, even at a young age during that particular time to see that, and that was pretty special. So
why Pearl for you? I mean, I get maybe wanting to follow in your dad's footsteps, follow in Woody's footsteps, and be a coach, but it seems like the legacy didn't scare you, I think is where I'm getting at. Like, you wanted to walk right into it, and literally you picked up the pace right after, he retired from 43 state championships out of 46 possible years. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So what was it that drew you back to Pearl specifically?
Well, I'm going to back up just 2 years before I started at Pearl. So I was the head coach at Starkville for 2 years, and was able to get the head coaching job up there. The actual guy that gave me my job up there at Starkville used to be the superintendent actually at Pearl there for a while, and he called my dad. And of course, I was assistant coach at the time and was trying to get into being a head coach, and he called my dad and he said, "Look, I need a head coach." And he said, "Well, I can stop you before you get off the phone." He said, "I can tell you right now." He's standing right here. And from that point, I went up there for an interview, and it's Stan Miller's the guy's name that was actually the athletic director there at the time, and he had already retired, but he had come back to Starkville. He was previously a principal before he became Pearl's superintendent. So after he retired from being a superintendent, he ended up coming back to Starkville, which is where kind of his roots were, and become athletic director. And then, of course, that's where the phone call came from. So I came into that program and wanted to try to build it and try to do everything that Pearl did, because obviously, anytime that you see something that works, and I think a lot of coaches take ideas, and I tell people all the time that the best ideas are worth stealing, especially if they work, if you can be successful doing that. And so I took a lot of the ideas that my dad did. I spent a lot of time also with Mississippi State's coaches and kind of got to know them and got to be around them because they actually were rebuilding their track at the time. Because they were rebuilding their track, they had to come practice at Starkville High School.
Lucky for you.
So then once their track was done, kind of part of our thing is they allowed us to kind of come over there and be part of their track facility and kind of practice over there on some things. So, but while I was there at Starkville, like I said, I tried to build their program, and I thought we were pretty successful. I would say probably one of the biggest memories in my mind, even as a coach, with the success we've had at Pearl, even since I've been at Pearl, has been even when I was at Starkville. So that my second year that was there in track and field, we actually won the North Half Championship, and my dad won the South Half. So
that's cool.
That was pretty cool.
Ooh, and who was your mom pulling for?
Well, she'll tell you she was pulling for me.
Of course she was.
So
yes.
she said, her
she was tired of seeing him win.
that's what she said. She said, I'm going to go for Chris on this. So we ended up getting to the state championship, and Pearl ended up pulling it out, and we ended up losing by 8 points. Starkville did, but like I said, had a very, very successful year. So then that was the year I think that kind of pushed me onto the stage to kind of be able to take over at Pearl at that particular point.
When your dad decided to finally retire. We're going to pick up with Chris Barnett's story there. He's the Pearl Boys track and field head coach. Just won state championship, number what?
That was the 61st overall for our program.
Incredible. All right, we got more good things coming up. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. We are finishing our conversation with Chris Barnett. He is the Pearl Boys track and field head coach. He has been named Coach of the Year twice in the same year, which I think you're the only Mississippi, at least, track coach to ever get that distinction by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association. Whew. Is your plaque like half a mile long or something that way to get all that in there? But also, I think the broader and the cooler story of this is just the legacy there at Pearl High School with cross country, starting with your dad, Woody. You said 1978?
77,
78.
Yeah.
And then going on now with you being there for, this is your 12th sort of season. Y'all walked away state champions again this year, so congratulations. I want to get to the neat story, though, because the complex is named after your dad, but tell us the story about how that all happened and how Monopoly plays into that.
Yeah, so we ended up, like I said, a couple of years before my dad had ended up retiring, there was Ray Rogers. Let me start with the football stadium is actually named after Ray Rogers, obviously, who was one of our congressmen, and like I said, very successful as a football player there, and there was the voice of the Pirates for our football games. So toward the end of my dad's retirement, before he retired, toward the end of his career before he retired, they came to my family and ended up wanting to name the facility after after my dad, who ended up building that facility in the 01-02 school year, and he ended up, like I said, going about it, obviously, and ended up building the facility in the 01-02 year and built it so that we could host state championships. Tried to build a facility that was up to date with just most college stadiums, is the way that kind of his idea for that. And then, toward the end of his career, because of that and the additions that was made, they knew that they, would need to kind of come in at some point and kind of honor, what he had built in the program and everything else, for that. So that was kind of, neat for them to come in and do that. So.
That's pretty cool. And then you got the opportunity, obviously, to host, or at least not, I don't know if you've hosted, but at least train athletes and then bring home state championships in that field, which has to be really cool. But high school's different than college, because college you get to recruit. I think you get to recruit in track. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you get to do that. Or at least you get a smorgasbord of athletes. You can go out and find the greatest ones that have excelled. High school, you kind of get what you get. I mean, I'm sure there may be some in and out if they're really good, but for the most part, you are sort of ushering in, or the next class is being ushered in whether you like it or not, whoever it is. So to me, that's more impressive, to be able to create a culture of great cross country, or any athlete at that time, and set a precedence of what Pearl can accomplish, and to show that you can create championship teams with just what you get. Now, that sounds absolutely terrible, but meaning that you're not out like recruiting and sort of getting. And so what do you think's the secret sauce there between your dad and then you, or however, I'm sure you have your own twist to it, that y'all have been able to maintain a culture of high level of expectation out of the cross-country department? Well,
I'll say this, and I'm going to start with one of the sayings, and we were talking, I know, during the break about, our kids and so forth, but one of the sayings for our kids is, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And the reason I'm using that is that is true based on what you're saying for the high school realm. You don't get to recruit. So one of the things that, and I know we were briefly talking about it before we started it here today, I would say that one of the most successful things that you can do, and I would say with any coach, is to build that program up from your sixth graders that are coming in. One of the things that, and I know you're talking about being the head track and field coach for the high school, but I'm also the track and field coach for the junior high as well. So cross country.
Busy man.
So that's kind of one of, I would say, the secret sauces is that from the 7th grade all the way until the 12th grade, the only thing they hear is my voice, Coach Kirsch's voice, Coach Trigg's voice. Any of the coaches that we have on our staff, they're getting to just hear one voice. So there's never a point where a lot of other sports, whether that be at any other school, whether it even be within our school itself, they're always learning from me, and there's a relationship. And anytime, as well as that you can build a relationship with a kid and they can believe in you and they know that you care about them, that's going to translate into them wanting to not only play for themselves but also play for the coach and for the city and for the school. So that's pretty special, starting with the ground up, like I said. And I told you that I actually do 6th grade PE. So one of the greatest things.
Young.
Yeah, so that's the good thing is in 6th grade, whenever they are in PE, because they're required to take PE, then I'm getting to see those kids. So I'm constantly talking with them.
You are recruiting.
Yes,
just within with what you get.
Within what I got. So I'm talking with them all the time, about what we got and what you can do and, how you can help our program. And, we're looking forward to you. And then, so I would say getting to see those kids at a very young age. The other thing that I would say is, because I've been at Pearl my whole life, my dad's been at Pearl my whole life, and Coach Kirsch, who has been at Pearl his whole life, we have a situation to where if I didn't go to school with their parents, then either Coach Kirsch did, or my dad taught their parents, coached their parents, or Coach Kirsch did the same thing, or they know them through grandparents or some type of connection. So if there's somebody that we need to talk to, it makes it real easy whenever it's just almost a Pearl connection there. So you kind of know what you're getting, with those particular kids, and you have relationships even with their parents because we've been there their whole life and we know them as well.
Another cool thing about the Pearl track community is you guys got the opportunity to be featured in a movie, 1 Mile to You, along with yourself. So tell us how that came about.
So they actually contacted the school and was trying to look for teams around the state. And whenever they came here, they actually did it at Germantown High School, which in the movie is Gary High School is what it's listed as. But they were looking for teams to actually compete against the teams within the movie. So we were selected as one of the ones. So it's pretty neat to actually be the opposing coach in that particular movie that's going against who the main actors were for that. And like I said, to be part of it. Of course, they, would ask us from time to time just different things of that sort. Just, well, what happens in this situation when y'all are at a meet? We want to kind of recreate that. So that was pretty neat. And then, of course, the main coach in the movie actually was in one of the Prefontaine movies that he was actually Prefontaine in the movie. So he had already been in a running movie. And, of course, the guy that was the main runner within the movie, he actually ran in high school. So it was pretty neat. I will say the thing about being in a movie versus what probably to popular belief or what most people think, we would get out there at 6 o'clock in the morning and may not leave till 10 o'clock at night, and we may shoot a 1-minute clip. And I remember coming back home and thinking, we were out there that long just for that. And it was.
I've always wondered why they were on location for 8-9 months for like a 2-hour movie. I'm like, what are you fools doing out there? Like, you should be able to get the movie done in this long. So that's 1 Mile to You. It's streaming on Netflix, and you said other streaming services if anybody wants to sort of check that out.
That's right.
If you got a parent or grandparent listening, Chris, they may not be in the Pearl community, but what's your pitch for them to encourage 5th and 6th graders to think about cross country and track as maybe a sport of interest?
Well, I think especially like I said, not necessarily for Pearl's team. I guess I would say for Pearl it may be just a little bit different. We want to continue the winning tradition, so I want your kid to be able to come and be part of our program and be part of something special, which I believe is the top program in the state of Mississippi, and then of course one of the top programs in the South. I mean, like I said, we've been ranked nationally. So, but as far as just for the outreach for our community, I would say as far as Mississippi itself, I think that anytime you're able to get kids out that are active, you see a lot of these things out now that are Play 60 and things of that sort, to where kids are staying active and running and not sitting inside playing video games.
Right.
So
it feels like cross country takes I'm not going to say it doesn't take skill. That don't give me, but introducing them to most kids can run.
Yeah.
So at least giving, it's a little bit different. If they've been left behind in, say, some of the other sports, you feel like by the time they get sixth grade, they need to already be A-star athletes to be able to make teams now. But it feels like cross country and track, you still have an opportunity to learn it because you haven't had the opportunity to be on traveling teams and sort of all that for it. So don't forget about cross country and track. And Coach, I hate to do this, but I am from Brandon and I grew up in Terry, so eat dirt. I was like, I have to, but I mean that in the most affectionate way possible because you whoop our tail and everything else. So, but no, congratulations and kudos to what you and your dad have both built there. But you are taking the legacy on. Look forward to many more state championships right here in Rankin County. So I appreciate that. All right, you guys stick with us. We got more for you coming up next.